What's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
Your face is always so excited.
What's going on?
Hello.
So, I'm behind on Ahsoka right now.
Yes.
I'm 2 episodes behind. I've watched the first 2.
That's a shame.
It's
a shame.
Yeah, I'm being nerd shamed.
Good show.
It is good. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the first 2 episodes. I didn't know what to expect. I love Rosaria Dawson.
Yeah.
I think she's freaking awesome. And so getting to see her in that role.
It's Star Wars Rebels Season 5, bud. That's what it is. Look, the funny thing is that there's so much of a connection if you watch Star Wars Rebels. There's so many things that you would pick up on that you should just go back and watch Star Wars Rebels. First of all, the moment when Sabine is at the painting of all of them from the cartoon, and she's leaving with Ahsoka, that moment is in the finale of Rebels.
Really?
To have us show that moment in the finale of Rebels actually took place in this timeline. Now, we didn't know that at the time. We assumed it was just like a little epilogue. But no, like they recreate that moment to show, hey, see where we've caught up? That moment was this moment, right? And I thought that was interesting because, again, we didn't know that was that moment.
Yeah, because I didn't get into the Rebels thing. That was never my
Tripping.
cut.
Clone Wars and Rebels are 2 of the best Star Wars shows I've ever seen.
Clone Wars was fantastic.
Clone
No
Wars
doubt
is
about
amazing.
it.
And Rebels is just more of that.
So I thoroughly enjoyed the old Clone Wars animated series that was in like the Samurai Jack style art. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the Gandhi Tartakovsky 2-part.
And it was
great.
Little 15-minute
Not canon,
clips.
though.
No, it's not. But it was so much fun, man.
It was really good. Yeah.
Anakin was Ghost Hand.
Yeah, it's also where we first met the ARC troopers.
Mm-hmm.
These weird clones that were like not chipped like the rest of them. Were able to resist Order 66 when it happened.
Did their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking sweet.
Which gives rise to things like the Bad Batch. No, that's another thing. Have you watched the Bad Batch?
I've seen, I think, about 3 episodes of the Bad Batch.
You got to watch the Bad Batch.
So
also, really good show.
we were talking about like video game fatigue last week. I did get some Star Wars fatigue, man.
Well, so that's the question, right? Is Star Wars? Is there too much Star Wars?
So I think the thing that used to make Star Wars, one of the things that used to make Star Wars so special, was scarcity. It's not something that we had a ton of.
Sure.
So there was a lot that could be left to our imaginations and lots of blanks that we could fill in and stuff like that. It really let you nerd out hard on your own.
Agreed. And that's Filoni, right? Filoni's us.
Right.
Filoni's the guy that's getting to go, okay, all these things I've been imagining about what happened in between this and that, we're gonna show you, right? I mean, because Filoni's interesting, right? I like not only how he directs and his style and his writing, but I like how he has to make sense of things. Like he wants the continuity of Star Wars to work.
Sure.
Right. So the Emperor's return in Rise of Skywalker doesn't make a lot of sense on its face. It's like, okay, you didn't do anything to set that up. How did this happen? Well, Filoni's trying to explain that. That's why in The Mandalorian we had the Imperial Remnant trying to clone Force-sensitive people. It's how we got Supreme Leader Snoke. Right? I mean, he's trying to connect all of these dots. And I think that's fantastic, right? Because, again, what you just said is encapsulated in what he does and how he's doing it is we had all this space and we had all this imagination and what would this mean and how did we think this happened? Well, he's just doing it. He's just creating it.
The difference was that made it special when new Star Wars stuff would come out.
Sure.
And that's what we don't have as much of now because we are so saturated with it.
Well, so I guess the question, though, is, yes, we have a lot of quantity, but is it quality programming?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it things, as a Star Wars fan, you want to see?
Yeah, Mandalorian's been fantastic from the get-go. And some of my favorite Star Wars movies to come out in the last 25 years have been in the last decade.
Sure. I mean,
Rogue One, hands down one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
It felt unnecessary, but it's a good movie nonetheless.
It was redundant for sure.
The opening crawl told me that whole story. You don't need to tell me that story. That's what the crawl was for.
Right. Well, we kind of knew all that shit happened because they told us in A New Hope. They were like,
that's what I mean. The opening crawl of A New Hope.
Yeah.
Tells us the story of Rogue One.
I thought you were talking about the Rogue One opening crawl.
There was no opening crawl for Rogue One.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
I was like, there was? That's why I was kind of confused
the opening
there.
crawl for Star Wars A New Hope tells us
that
the
whole
story of Rogue One.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
They took the opening crawl and said, let's film this.
This is a movie now.
And that's fine, right? Because one of the things I said at the time that gets truer the more time has passed, and as we've seen other things that have kind of been set in this era, is why did it take us so long in a story where there was a civil war going on in the galaxy? Why did it take us so long to tell stories about those characters?
Sure.
To tell stories about the soldiers who were fighting this war? Because we can look at Luke and Leia and Han and these the higher up leaders of the rebellion that kind of have the moral high ground and kind of always get to take it. But when you're a soldier fighting a war, you have to make hard decisions.
Right. Decisions
that might not necessarily be good, but they are trying to,
they're necessary.
Build something better, right? So, we got a little bit of that in Rogue One, and I think we expanded upon that infinitesimally more during Andor.
Oh, yeah.
As a series. Andor is, some of the best Star Wars that's ever Star Warsed. I'm not saying that lightly. I like most of what they've been doing, right? The only show that I didn't really get into, I watched it, but it was kind of a disappointment, was Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett was disappointing.
But I think that's the problem I see in the internet at large, is people kind of hone in on one thing, and that sours their entire... The taste, it leaves such a bad taste in their mouth that they can't enjoy anything else.
So I'll say there are parts of Disney getting Star Wars that's been a blessing, and other parts of it that have fucking sucked, man. I really did not like the last trilogy. Like from the first film and on, the one thing that I will say about it, and the one thing that I found remotely redeeming in it, was I got to see the single strongest Force thing that I've ever seen in canon happen, and it was fucking Luke Skywalker doing it.
Sure.
I thought that was incredible.
So I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna make everyone in the comments angry. I liked the last trilogy. I thought it was fine.
Okay.
As a series of Star Wars stories, I thought it was fine, and I will tell you why. People lambasted the prequel trilogy. Just destroyed it.
Right.
And look how fondly we look back on it now. Look at people like Hayden Christensen. Look at people like Ahmed Best. Look at how we celebrate them now. I think when we lambasted them for so long.
I think we love them because they're a part of our thing, if you will.
It's all a part of Star Wars.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Star Wars isn't ours. It's Star Wars.
Right, but when I say our thing, I mean the thing that we like.
I understand the thing that we like, but we didn't like the prequel trilogy. No one did.
I did.
Well, how old were you in the prequel?
Young.
In 1999.
How 1999, I was about 10 years old.
Yeah, see, I was a teenager in that era.
I
didn't like it. It was appealed, I think, much more to a 10-year-old than it did to a teenage man. But, yeah, it was not great. And we said as much. But now... looking back, and it's a rose-colored glasses thing, right? It's hindsight is 20/20. But looking back, is it all as bad as we remember? No. Are there things about it that are bad? Sure. But there are things about the original trilogy that are bad.
Yeah.
I think the problem comes in when we take something, a new trilogy of Star Wars. This is why people hated the prequel trilogy, and it's why people hate the sequel trilogy. Because we're always comparing the new thing
to the
thing that we fell in love with, which is the original trilogy. And it's never going to make you feel that same way again. It can't.
Right.
The idea of watching Star Wars for the first time is a feeling you're never going to recreate, no matter how good any new Star Wars thing is.
Right.
You're never going to recreate that feeling of that world. So comparing what George Lucas did with the prequel trilogy, comparing what Disney did with the sequel trilogy to the original trilogy is not fair to those movies.
I hear you.
It's not fair.
I hear you.
They should be judged on their own merits.
Right. And the way that I look at these movies is it was a muddied mess from the get-go. So the Force Awakens. We'll start there. I didn't need to watch A New Hope again. And that was my biggest complaint about it.
That was my complaint. That was everybody's complaint.
I did not need to see A New Hope again. I saw A New Hope, and A New Hope was better. They did a lot of like fun, nostalgic shit that everybody got excited about. But guess what? We saw all of that when we got our first trailer.
Sure.
You know, Han Solo and Chewie and the Millennium Falcon. Actually, I think we watched that together at the shop. And
Probably.
I remember getting goosebumps seeing that. I was like,
That was a
oh
great
my
trailer.
God. And then that was the movie, basically. Like, that was the whole film. And then the second movie, okay.
It's great.
We see a little more happening.
That's another thing you're gonna be angry about. Go ahead, be angry about it. The second movie is great.
There were parts of it, like you said, in old Star Wars that were just unnecessary. I think
No, it's the best of the three.
it is the best of the three.
Really? You agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Because most people don't. I bet you guys don't agree out there.
No, the best of the new three. It's for sure the best of the new three.
Well,
I still
we
didn't.
are of a kind.
I still
We're in the minority, though.
Yeah.
Most people hate The Last Jedi.
really.
Oh, yes. Have you not been on the internet any time in the past 10 years?
I thought everybody
it's
was
not that
shitting on Rise of
Well, people shit on that
Skywalker.
one, too.
Yeah.
But of the three, the one that is the most universally panned and hated is The Last Jedi.
really.
We had a whole episode where we talked about that. You don't remember that?
No, I don't
We had a whole
remember.
episode where we talked about why everyone's anger at The Last Jedi was totally misplaced and wrong.
No, I remember talking about that.
We
But
did a nerd rage episode.
It was a nerd rage episode. I remember that. But the thing about that, like, yes, that movie stood tallest out of the three for certain.
It's great. It's a fantastic film that acknowledges the history of Star Wars while moving forward with a story that's not the same.
Sure.
And then J.J. Abrams just walked back all the changes that were made.
That's when I say it was all muddy, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, they didn't go into it with a plan. That's the problem, right?
Sure.
You didn't at least understand before if you're making a trilogy of movies, which they knew they were going to do.
Right.
There was no doubt they were going to make a trilogy. Even if the first two tanked, they were going to make a trilogy of movies. They were going to finish it, right? So if you know going in, this is going to be 3 films, don't you think you would sit down and at least make a treatment, not a script, but a treatment of what the story is in each part and how it works?
The company that you're a part of has Marvel, which did it the best out of everybody.
Yeah, but they had a plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Don't you think
You have to have a plan.
Don't you think you would look at your friends at Marvel and say, "Hey, they had a blueprint, an overarching thing that they were going to do"?
Right.
Maybe.
Not right away.
Maybe.
But post Avengers, there was a plan.
I mean, going up to Avengers, you could tell that
They were kind of flying by the seat of their pants leading up to Avengers. Look, because there's a lot of things, if you go back and watch those original Phase 1 movies, there's a lot of things that have just been dropped, that have just got dropped entirely or don't matter to the story at all. By Avengers, though, Avengers' success made them go, okay, if we're going to continue doing this, what's the structure and how's it going to work?
When we got those films, there was going to be an Avengers, because I think it was at the end of Hulk. At the end of The Incredible Hulk, we have Ross talking to Stark, and it was Ross talking to Fury.
No.
Was it Fury
Kind
or
of nerd
Stark?
are you?
There's a scene where one of these fuckers, it was Ross talking to one, or it was Fury talking to Stark.
Stark happens at the end of Iron Man. Stark talking to Ross happens at the end of Incredible Hulk.
There we go.
What
Okay.
kind of nerd are you?
I'm mixing it all together, man. I'm mixing it all
This
together.
guy.
I know. I'm the worst. Yeah, I totally just muddied that. I was like, oh, these are all. Yeah.
So again, they just didn't.
We knew
they
we were
didn't have
getting
a plan.
The plan was to get the Avengers together.
Right, but Star Wars didn't have a plan.
Right.
We were making each movie on our own. And when Rian Johnson, he's talked about this, when he came on and said, well, what should I be worrying about and what should I be building towards? They were just like, yeah, whatever. Just do your movie. Well, that's okay. But if you know it's the middle movie of a trilogy, there should at least be a few checklist items. Hey, you got to make sure these things happen, so that when we get to this third movie, it all makes sense.
Yeah, and you have to acknowledge that this had happened.
Right.
Yeah. It was
Because
odd.
I really do think it was Rian Johnson's intention that Rey was not special. Rey was not Palpatine's granddaughter.
Yeah, that was so fucking
That was stupid. Rey was important because the Force needed balance. The dark side had grown too strong. The Force needed balance. So it reached out to someone who was sensitive to it. that could change the world, a chosen one, if you will. Because all of those people, any of you people out there that say Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one, you're wrong. He's not. Read some comic books. He's not the chosen one. The birth of Anakin Skywalker was not a miracle. It was not some kind of, divine promise. It was Palpatine manipulating the midichlorians inside of Shmi Skywalker to create Anakin Skywalker, because he knew in doing that,
Palpatine and Plagueis,
he would fool the Jedi into thinking the chosen one had been born. It was Palpatine's play. Read some comic books. The comic books are canon now. Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars, which means Star Wars comic books are canonical in the Star Wars universe.
Well, the book isn't canon, but if you read the Tale of Darth Plagueis or whatever.
Sure. Plagueis. It's just called
Plagueis.
Plagueis.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
They talk about it there. The whole thing.
Sure.
Whole thing's there. And they basically made all of that canon.
Right. Well, they're bringing back the things that they like. So Anakin's not the chosen one. So you might say, well, then who's the chosen one? Is it Luke? Nah. Luke's not the chosen
Whoever
one.
is necessary at a given point in time.
Right. The chosen one is not a single individual. The chosen one is an idea. The chosen one, and I think of all of the people that could be considered the chosen one, it's probably Rey. This is a person that we watch in the movie grapple with the idea that not only does she have the Force, not only is she a Jedi or trying to be a Jedi, but she's also kind of a Sith in some ways, right? She also does some stuff that's questionable when it comes to what a Jedi would do or could do. So balance in the Force is not Jedi or Sith. Balance in the Force is both. You cannot have light without darkness, and you cannot have darkness without light. Balance in the Force has been misinterpreted by both sides for years. It never should have been separate. It's one order. Force users.
Starting to sound like Revan now.
Well, Revan is a good character insofar as he represents a little bit of both. But he fell to the dark side, and we know that.
And then he came back, and he kept aspects of it.
Sure. Gray Jedi is what I'm talking about. There are gray Jedi. They do exist. The Guardians of the Whills were grays. I mean, hell, Donnie Yen's character in Rogue One was a Guardian of the Whills. Now, he might not have been Force sensitive, but he believed, and it kept him safe, at least from his perspective. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but from his perspective, the Force was looking out for him. So I think there's debate to be had about the chosen one. I think we just need to probably leave that idea behind, though, right?
I would argue that
is it Ahsoka?
I think the chosen one changes from time to time, because if I had to pick somebody whom I thought it was, it'd be Luke Skywalker.
It's not Luke,
and he managed to get things to an okay place and fuck it up.
Why is it Luke though? Because he destroyed the Sith?
No. Because
that's not bringing balance.
No. So it's Papa Bear. It was Papa Bear the whole time. So when basically when he brings Anakin back right there at the last couple moments of his life, I think that was his moment where he is bringing balance as much as you can.
The prophecy also says the chosen one was conceived by the midichlorians. We know that Luke was not.
No, but Anakin sure was.
No, he wasn't.
He was okay.
His midichlorians were manipulated by the Emperor.
Yes, by him and Plagueis. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Emperor did not. This is something that Plagueis had been doing for a very, very long time before the Emperor ever came in.
Creating life.
Years and years and years.
Yeah.
But it was It was largely unsuccessful up until that point.
He needed Palpatine. He needed the power that Palpatine had.
Yes, he needed help.
Yeah.
And because Plagueis was also very picky about who he took on as an apprentice.
In a way, you could say Emperor Palpatine is
the chosen one?
Is Anakin's father.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say is the chosen one. I was like, maybe.
Because that was how they did it in the comics. Anakin's having this Force vision. And the Emperor says, Anakin, I am your father. Right? Because of course he does. But, so we're way off topic. We started talking about something very specific within Star Wars. Is there too much Star Wars?
Yes.
Is the quality of that Star Wars lacking because there's too much?
I think there's too much. I don't think we're able to appreciate it.
But I don't think we're lacking in quality.
No, we're not.
Obi-Wan is
Obi-Wan
a
was great.
fantastic show. Andor is some of the best Star Wars stuff I've ever seen, and it doesn't have any magic space wizards in it. And if Ahsoka is any indication, it's going to be a great show too.
Right.
We're only 4 episodes into an 8-episode series, and it's great, especially if you're a fan of Rebels. I mean, if you've watched all 4 seasons of Rebels and you have not watched Ahsoka, you're missing out. It's season 5 of Rebels, and it looks poised to reunite all of those people again. We already got Zeb in season 3 of The Mandalorian. He meets with Carson, and they're talking about Navarro and all of that.
Yeah,
Zeb's the big giant Lysat alien guy with the goatee.
I gotcha. I think we do have quality Star Wars coming out right now.
Right, because I can understand if they were flooding the market with Star Wars and every other show was good. Right? Then I think would be a different conversation. Then the conversation would be, there's just too much Star Wars. Because the quality is suffering as a result. But I don't think the quality has suffered.
See, and I think the thing that makes me think there's too much is just that we constantly have it. There's nothing that makes it rare or valuable.
We constantly have it?
Yes, it's always here. It's always here. There's always a new Star Wars series right there on the horizon, or a new movie, something along those lines. It's the same thing with Marvel.
You're telling me, though, everything they've been building with these shows, through The Mandalorian, through Ahsoka, through Boba Fett, all of this, Andor, all of this stuff, that's going to eventually lead to a movie that Dave Filoni is going to write and direct, doesn't have you excited?
I'm ready for the movie.
Grand Admiral Thrawn as the bad guy, reuniting the Empire.
Again, I think it's all
starting
cool.
a new war.
It's all cool. It's all cool.
He's building.
We have so much of it, though.
Dave Filoni, again, he's trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? So
that it works.
The First Order in episode 7, right? Everyone's, where the hell did these guys come from? How did these guys gain so much power with the Imperials just destroyed,
right,
and scattered? Well, how? Grand Admiral Thrawn. They're laying the groundwork for what will eventually become the First Order. They're showing us the New Republic and these former Imperials that have been, rehabilitated,
right,
and are now working for the New Republic,
right,
but still have loyalties to the Empire.
Right.
That happens in the second episode of Ahsoka.
It does.
Long live the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to die for the Empire, working within the New Republic.
Right.
We saw it in Andor.
We did see it in Andor.
In the Reclamation, when all of these people are kind of still loyal to the Empire. They're pretending to not be, but they definitely are.
No, they've shown a lot of the Empire loyalists.
The First Order
being
grew
just shady
within the New Republic. That is what I think is interesting, right? The First Order grew within the New Republic. It was, scientists and military people who put their intentions on hold for a little while to fool these people into thinking they were on their side. And then all of a sudden we have the First Order, which has to then give birth to a new rebellion, a resistance was what they called it, right? So I think there's so much stuff. I agree with you. But I don't think any of it has been bad, and I don't think any of it is unnecessary.
Again, I did not say any of it was bad. I do think it's
Book of Boba Fett's not great.
Book of Boba Fett actually was kind of crappy. But when you
not every episode. There were some episodes that I was just like, wow, that was amazing.
There were redeeming points there.
Seeing Cad Bane come back, that blew my mind.
But
one of the coolest bounty hunters in all of Star Wars.
As far as yes, as a whole, all the new Star Wars stuff has been very good. Like every series, minus Book of Boba Fett, has been fucking fantastic.
Just imagine this movie that we're building. Imagine the fight against Thrawn includes the Mandalorians reunited under Bo-Katan.
I think they have to, but here's the thing that we're going to run into with this. Much like we have with Marvel, is it going to get to a point to where I can't go just watch this movie because I'm not up to date on all this other
You're
shit.
not going to be able to watch this movie without watching these television shows.
That's what I'm saying. It's
But again, why would you not want to watch these television shows when the end result is going to be Thrawn and the Imperial Remnant reunited versus the Mandalorians united under Bo-Katan? Ahsoka Tano fighting alongside, Luke Skywalker in his prime? Pre-new Jedi Order?
right.
Come on.
It's going to be cool. There's no doubt about it.
It's going to be amazing.
I want casuals to be able to like it too, though.
I agree, but the problem is inherent in anything. I mean, I'm a comic book fan. You're a comic book fan.
Right.
The problem inherent in anything is eventually you're going to get to a moment where you're going to be confused unless you've been keeping up.
100%.
Right? I just put a post up about Superior Spider-Man on FOC this week. You asked me to hold you one, and I will.
Yeah.
But if you miss that one shot, you're going to go into
behind.
number one,
100%.
not knowing what the hell's going on.
100%.
Or how this all came about.
That's why I said, hold it for me.
Exactly. So look, I understand the casual fan just wanting to go see a movie, but continuity
Continuity is important.
inherently will always build to a place where if you haven't watched or read, you're going to be confused.
That's the thing that made Star Wars simpler 100 years ago, though.
No.
There were 3 films that people had to worry about, and that was it.
I understand what you're saying, but when the prequel trilogy came out,
Oh, there was so much shit out there.
expanded universe stuff infected that prequel trilogy.
No doubt about
Was it important to the plot? No, not really. But it was going to make the viewing experience bigger for the fan that had kept up.
Of course.
Do I think this movie won't be able to be watched just as a movie? No, absolutely. It will be able to be watched just as a movie. But all of a sudden, the Mandalorians reunited under a single flag coming into the battle, yeah, that's going to be a big moment in the movie. And if you've kept up with how that has happened, it will be a bigger moment.
Yes, it will be more exciting for the adamant fan,
Right.
of course.
I don't think that we're going to not be able to watch this movie because we haven't watched X, Y, and Z TV show.
Okay, that was my concern because we do.
I think Dave Filoni is enough of a good creator and writer that it will still be a movie. It will still be a,
It'll have plot points that make
structured
it- yes,
movie
yes.
that make it a movie. But just like watching Ahsoka, if you had watched Rebels, I mean, the whole time watching that show, there are moments when I'm just like, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing, right? Like the 4th episode has a moment, and it won't make any sense to you, so it's not even really a spoiler, right? But the 4th episode has a moment where she ends up in the world between worlds. And if you watch Star Wars Rebels, my immediate, when the camera started panning out and I realized what was going on, my immediate reaction was, how did she get here? You can't just get here. You have to have a portal. You can't just walk in. You can't just magic your way in. So that was my immediate reaction. And seeing what we saw at the end of that episode, I mean, I won't spoil that part because that's a big moment. But also, I was like, well, how did that happen? Right? Like, you can't, the world between worlds is broken. It's
They're
a
giving you a
broken
lot
thing.
to chew on there. Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe I hope that it lends to a great Star Wars film, and it's something that everybody will like and appreciate.
Look, I guess my question is, as you're watching the first couple episodes of Ahsoka,
Yeah.
do you feel like you missed anything?
No.
Exactly.
No.
And I think that's how the movie will feel.
Good.
You won't feel like you missed anything, but if you take the time,
You're going to appreciate the Easter
you're going to
eggs even
appreciate
more.
these
Yeah.
moments, these big moments a little more.
Sure.
Will the movie be the first time you've seen Luke Skywalker back? Probably. But it shouldn't be, because he's popped up 2 or 3 times at this point in these stories, and you should watch them because Luke Skywalker is great.
He's cool. He's cool as shit.
And they're getting much better at making it just look like Luke Skywalker.
Right.
The first time we saw it, it was like, yeah. And then a guy on the internet made it look better. And so Disney just hired that guy to make it look better. I'm serious. That's how that story goes.
You're pretty good at
A
this,
guy on
Dave.
YouTube
Come on in.
deep faked it to make it look better.
Yeah.
And Disney said, well, we need that guy. That guy, look how much better it looks. Get that guy. Call that guy. Get him to come work for us.
Do you think they're still hemorrhaging money on these?
No.
No?
Nah. I think
They need the films to really
the films are where they're going to make their money, for sure. Because Disney Plus, I mean, do they pick up more subscribers with new things? I'm sure they do. Otherwise, why continue to make them?
I wonder what viewership is on these shows.
The viewership's pretty high for Ahsoka at the very least. But I think Ahsoka's an outlier. Ahsoka's been a popular fan favorite character from her inception.
Very long time.
Yeah, from the very get-go.
When The Mandalorian broke the internet.
Yeah.
You have a fucking baby Yoda in it. It's
Grogu.
the cutest thing in the world.
Grogu. Yeah. That's Grogu's the one that made that show successful.
He did.
But I think, again, watching all of these things is going to help inform some of the bigger moments when we get to a movie. And that's not the only movie we're talking about, right? They're talking about that as a movie to kind of be the conclusion, or at least the big moment of all of this, and then maybe we'll have some shows that go on after it. But they're also doing an Old Republic movie. And
I'm stoked for the Old Republic shit.
X-Wing, Rogue Squadron type movie, which I'm also excited about, that Patty Jenkins has been working on.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a few things to look forward to in movie form. And I mean, the Rogue Squadron or the X-Wing thing, whatever they end up doing, whether it's Rogue or Blue or Gold or whatever squadron they decide to tell us about, that movie doesn't have any setup in any television show. Right. So it could just be its own thing. Unless what they're saying is that Carson's X-Wing contingent are the characters we're going to follow, because he's the Asian guy that you keep seeing with the beard. He was supposed to have his own television show.
Really?
Rangers of the New Republic was going to be his television show.
Yeah.
Was supposed to be a story about Force witches and Dark Force users.
That'd be fucking wild.
Morgan Elspeth was going to be one of the stars of that show.
Yeah, that'd be fucking wild.
Because she's a Night Sister. Everybody forgets that.
Yeah,
right?
she is.
Morgan Elspeth is a Night Sister.
Yeah, that would have been fucking cool.
Yeah.
I wish we would have got Force witches. Come on, man.
We did in Clone Wars and Rebels. Watch Clone Wars. Watch Rebels.
I did see
the Night Sisters are there.
You asked me, you were like, did you watch Rebels? And I was like, no. And you're like, dude.
Missed out.
You missed out.
The Night Sisters are there, and the Night Sisters are a great addition to Star Wars. Back in the old expanded universe, I think they were just called Force Witches.
I think they were called Force Witches
or
back
Night
in the
Witches,
day.
or something. It was Filoni who first called them the Night Sisters, but they've infected almost every part of Star Wars. They were in the video games. They're in the video games now. They've infected pretty much every part of Star Wars.
It's like a virus that just won't go away.
I just love it, man. I love how they reanimate the corpses of Dathomirian sons to serve as knights and stuff. Like, that's just so cool. The Dathomirian sons are the Zabraks.
Yeah. No. This is
Darth Maul's people.
They're fucking scary, man.
They're
Those
awesome.
Force Witches are scary.
In Clone Wars, Savage Opress, Darth Maul's brother, he was reanimated and given more strength through Night Sister magic. When he died, I don't know if he's actually dead, but when he died, he had that green, oozy goo stuff leaking out of him, which was the Night Sister magic that had finally left him, right? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited.
I like the Force Witches now.
Oh, I love the Force
The Force
Witches.
Necromancers.
Yeah. They're using magic. Magic with a K.
Magic with a K.
Magic with a K.
So you don't think there's too much? Because there's
a lot.
Clearly you're liking it a lot.
But yeah, I think the difference is with, Marvel, for instance. There's a lot of Marvel. Is it all great? Nah. Some of it's not great. Some of it we could do without. I didn't need you to tell me that story. That story wasn't great. Some of it's really good. But I think with Star Wars, they have proven that, yes, there's a lot of quantity, but it's been mostly quality.
It's been pretty high quality, yeah. That's fair. And I guess when you really look at it, we've not gotten as much of that shit as we have Marvel shit. We had a moment there where they were...
There's a lot of Star Wars. I mean, for sure. We've had 3 seasons of Mandalorian. We had a Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka,
mostly TV
Andor,
series. It's
Obi-Wan.
mostly TV series, though.
Yeah, they haven't done any more movies since Rise of Skywalker.
Well, we had a point in time there where they were doing like the Solo movie and blah blah blah. There was so much shit coming out on top of the Disney Plus series that I think we were getting ready for.
I think that's what they realized, right?
Yeah.
Is movies like Solo, like Rogue One, probably would have just been better off as series.
Probably.
Right? I think it's why we went the series road, and we haven't made a new movie since then.
That makes sense.
Because you didn't need to spend $500 million to make this. You could have spent 150 million and made a 6-episode television show, and it would have been fine. It wouldn't have been a great show, like Solo as an example. Probably wouldn't have been a great show regardless.
Right.
But you didn't have to spend so much money. You didn't have to piss off 2 great filmmakers in the process, Chris Lord and Phil Miller. And you want to say Chris Lord and Phil Miller are not great filmmakers? I beseech you, go watch the Lego movie because you're wrong. They are great. watch Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh my God.
And you tell me Phil Lord and Chris Miller are not great filmmakers.
No, they're very good.
And they were going to direct Solo. And then they wanted to take it in a direction that Disney didn't want, and they brought in Ron Howard, and Ron Howarded it all up. Turned it into a checklist of all the mystery of Han Solo. We just checked them all off as we went along. I mean, seriously, you could write down all the mystery of Han Solo. Everything you ever questioned about who this character was or how he came to be, you could write it all down on a list and sit in the movie theater and just check everything off as you went.
Oh,
That's
good.
all it was.
Does he shoot first?
Yeah. Kessel Run? All right. Gun? Yep, there it is. Attitude? Comes from Woody Harrelson. Yep, there it is. I mean, you could literally just check it all off. It's not great.
Yeah, it was
It was not great. Probably would have been a better TV show. Or would have been a shitty TV show. I don't know.
I think it would have been a shitty
Rogue
TV
One,
show.
though, I think is a perfect example of another one that probably should have just been a TV show. Because Andor has proven that story, that timeline, those characters, in a long-form television show, because Andor was the longest one they've done so far, the longest television show, and every episode was solid.
I don't think we needed
Every episode was fantastic.
With Rogue One, though, I think if we would have done 8 hours of fucking
Nah, that would have been a
shit
6 one. That would have been a 6 one.
Okay, 6 is too much.
It wouldn't have been 6 hours either. I mean, shit. Let's be honest. Most of these shows aren't having
they're probably 30-minute shows.
hour-long episodes, right?
Right. I guess
It's
that's
not
fair.
Game of Thrones up in here.
Right. I guess that's what I'm like, I've got in my head, because I'm like, yeah, an hour and a half, 2-hour movie, totally acceptable.
Yeah.
I think that's plenty of time for that story.
Sure.
And it was good. Like I said, that's my favorite Star Wars movie that's come out in the last, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. It's
So,
not my favorite Star Wars movie. It's a good movie.
Not my
though.
favorite, but in the last 20 years. Because, hold on. No, episode 3 is technically...
Revenge of the Sith is a pretty movie.
That one's actually... It's
pretty okay.
That's a good flick. He had a lot of loose ends that he was tying up there.
Yeah, it seemed like he rushed the conclusion when he could have just used the 3 movies he was making to tell that story a little more succinctly.
Oh, 100%.
The fact that we started with Anakin Skywalker as a child was something we just didn't have to do. We didn't have to do that.
No, it was.
We could have began.
You know what? We could have
in Jedi training.
We could have picked him up as a kid, and it could have taken 7 minutes. 7 minutes of the film.
We spent the whole movie with him as a kid.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If it would have taken 7 minutes, we could have done this like fast track. You see him growing up. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Little montage.
Yes, exactly.
Of his
training montage. Exactly.
Yeah. I am excited though that Hayden Christensen is having a moment again.
He is.
I am.
He got shit on so much, and I don't think it was deservedly so.
No, he's a good actor.
He's been great in several films since Star Wars.
He's a good actor. There's nothing wrong with him as an actor. I think he just had a shit director.
Yeah.
George Lucas is not a good director.
No.
He'll tell you that. That's not me shitting on George Lucas. He said, and I quote, "I'm not a good director."
At least he gets it.
It's why he brought in guys like Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola to help him direct, because he doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, he's a good creative mind.
Yeah, he's good. He's a big picture guy.
Yeah, big picture guy.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks.
Look, Ahmed Best is having a moment too.
Oh my God. Did he ever? Well,
I'm just saying there's not only that, right? Having him be the Jedi that saved Grogu, right? Makes Ahmed Best as an actor a much more likable character. But even as Jar Jar Binks, again, we're not looking back on that with as much anger as we had when it initially came out.
No. I thought the character...
Ahmed Best got so much hate. I mean, he went to a very low, dark place.
Right.
We're lucky that man is still alive.
Right.
Based on how much hate he got.
I remember being a kid and watching that.
Well, if you're a child, Jar Jar Binks is hilarious.
My wife said that. Because I was like...
If I was 9 years old, I'd be laughing my ass like, this goofy guy. He's great.
I thought he was funny. I didn't think he was necessary, but he was funny.
Sure.
And, but he was necessary. Like, to the story on Naboo, he had a pivotal... This whole thing... No. He acted as a liaison between the Jedi and his people.
You think that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan couldn't have made that Force deal without Jar Jar Binks? Because they absolutely could have.
They totally could have. But Jar Jar Binks led him to his people.
Well, yeah.
So he had a thing that he had to do there.
Well, let's rewind for a sec, right? Because is Jar Jar Binks leading them to his people necessary? Droids that Obi-Wan and Anakin came down to the planet with are going to the capital. Well, we just tag along. That's how we got down here in the first place.
That's fair.
When you're inside the droid transport, the droids aren't active. No one's looking at you.
Right.
You could just chill.
That's fair.
They don't activate them until they shove them out.
They could have hitched a ride.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So is he necessary? No, not at all. He's not necessary to the story. The story could have gone on without Jar Jar Binks.
They had a whole battle and slowed droids down, though.
That battle was also unnecessary. Being as how the space battle was being done to shut down all the droids planetside. So that battle was unnecessary too.
I think it was tying up more droids planetside though, so that they could do more in the city and stuff like that. I think they were creating multiple fronts upon which this battle could be
George
fought.
Lucas even said when he realized how many battles he was going to have at the end of Phantom Menace, he looked right at the camera during a behind the scenes thing and said, "I might have gone too far." Because even George Lucas was going, this might be too many battles. Too many battles, guys.
Oh, well, I thought it was cool. And I thought for that, I was happy with the character. That being said, like, looking back at the film, I'm like, a little weird, but okay. My wife, however, loves Jar Jar Binks. She's like, oh, stop. She's like, I think he's so funny. So anytime we talk about it, she's like, yeah, I liked Jar Jar Binks a lot. That was the only reason I liked Star Wars, is what she said.
Well, but that's the thing, right? Like, she was young then, seeing the movie.
It's what R2-D2 and C-3PO were years ago.
Yeah.
They were these stupid comic relief things. And beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, beep.
But their comic relief was more subtle. Jar Jar Binks' comic relief was a little ridiculous.
It was in your face.
It was in your face.
No doubt about it. He was a cartoon character in a movie.
Yes, absolutely.
So they did their whole thing there, but no, I feel bad for Ahmed Best for the bullshit that he went through for it.
I feel bad for a lot of those people.
I'm glad he got his moment in the sun, though.
Yeah. And he's the one who saved Grogu. No one can ever take that away from him.
No, he's the best fucking Jedi.
He's the Jedi who saved Grogu. And everybody loves Grogu. Best way to make yourself likable again is put yourself next to Grogu. Yeah,
be the guy
and everyone will love
you.
Him. Everyone will love you forever.
Pedro Pascal?
Everyone will love him forever because he defends that little tiny cute thing that we all love.
Oh, fucking nerds.
But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with Star Wars as it is. I think there is a lot of quantity, but it's been pretty quality the whole time. Fair
enough. What do you guys think? Is there too much?
Are we wrong?
Is there too little?
Because we could be wrong.
We could be.
We're wrong a lot.
They could be shit shows.
It could be really bad.
we're just like...
And we're just so into Star Wars that it doesn't matter.
Anytime there's a Star Wars badge on it, we're like, no, that's really fucking
great.
good.
It's so good.
It's really good. You see that guy's armor? He's a Mandalorian.
Well, it's actually funny. The two, just before we go, the two bad guys, quote unquote, in Ahsoka, the Force users, when he takes his cloak off in the most recent episode, he's wearing what looks like the old clone armor that the Jedi fought, like when Obi-Wan fought in the Clone Wars, he wore like a clone trooper armor mixed with his Jedi robes. Kind of looks like that. When he takes his robe off, I was like, he looks like he just took that armor and painted it black. Like, it looks very similar with the pauldrons and the different parts here.
Oh, man.
Like, it's just cool looking, right?
Yeah.
It makes him seem like he was a general that was fighting in the Clone Wars, and that's what made him go, what are we doing?
Right.
Jedi are peacekeepers. We're not soldiers. And that's why he walked away. Not to go join the dark side, just to be like, you guys suck now.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing this anymore.
We don't need to be involved
This isn't what I signed up for.
Global politics.
Exactly.
Or galactic politics,
Yeah, this isn't what I signed up for.
Right.
This is not what the Jedi Order stands for. And Qui-Gon saw that too.
Well, no, there was a vast overstepping of what the Jedi should have been doing.
When Count Dooku in episode 2 said to Obi-Wan, if Qui-Gon were still alive, he'd be on my side. He was right. Qui-Gon would definitely be on Count Dooku's side. They told that story in comics, and that's the only reason I know. It's not some weird insight that I have. It's a comic book.
It's not some weird. Look, I am one with the Force, so I know these things. I was talking to his Force ghost just the other
this
day.
is Force ghosts. They appear to me all the time. You didn't know that? You can't see him? He's right here.
Liam Neeson shows up to your Neeson. I'm sorry. Liam Neeson shows up to your house and is like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know Dooku was right."
I would be on Count Dooku's side. Yeah, he was right.
So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. You can write us some nice hate mail. Send that to entertainthegeeky@gmail.com. I'll take the time to read it on air. It's a fun thing that we can do.
Yeah. No press is bad press. Right?
No, not at all.
Even hatred is press.
We get presidents that way now. So yeah, go to entertainthegeeky.com. You can follow us on all of our social media there. If you have not already, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can subscribe to our little thing that we do here, or you can stay here on YouTube. If you're listening to this not on YouTube, I feel bad for saying that, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. It works. It helps us. We love you.
Give us a like or a dislike, either way. I mean,
no, we want these. We want these.
No press is bad press.
It is, man. If we get too many dislikes, we won't show up in the algorithm, and the algorithm already does not like us.
The algorithm's never going to like us.
Dude, there was a period in time where I was like, oh, this thing fucking loves us. Yeah. And then the last 2 shorts and 2 videos that I've posted, I'm like, what did I do to you, YouTube?
It just doesn't like us.
Yeah, no, not right now. It'll get over it. I think we'll mend we'll mend the fence there. We'll fix our relationship with the YouTubes. But yeah, thank you for hanging out. As always, stay geeky.